On this episode of Country Boy Gas Garage, we take a close look at this Y block and see what it needs to run this old bus down the road. So let's go. Welcome to another episode of Country Boy Gas Garage. I'm Jason, and this is our 1948 Ford F5 church bus. Now, we've rescued this bus from being abandoned in the forest, and now we're getting it ready to go back down the road. Now, if you remember in the first couple episodes how bad this was. Now, this engine bay consisted of a rat's nest that went from the ground all the way up to here. You couldn't even close the hood. Well, we cleaned all that rat nest out of here, and this motor was in rough shape. It was all rusted up. This motor was completely seized up. It took quite the effort to get it freed up. We had to put oil down on the cylinders and let it soak. I tried turning it over by hand with the ratchet on the crank bolt and ended up breaking the washer there. I ended up having to get underneath and then pull the inspection plate off and get a pry bar on that flywheel. And eventually we were able to get it to break free and rotate. Then we slapped a new starter on here. I rebuilt the carburetor, gave her a tune-up, and she fired back to life. And she ran pretty good. We drove her clear out of the forest all the way here, and she fires right up and idles. But in that starting process, I did bend a couple push rods. So we're going to have to replace those and kind of take a closer look and see what else this thing needs. So yeah, like I was saying, this front push rod is bent. Not too bad. I was able to straighten it back out and put it back in there. But yeah, this exhaust valve in this front cylinder was completely stuck. And when I was cranking it over by hand, I didn't realize I was bending this push rod. I ended up having to take the push rod out and the rocker arm off and tap, tap, tap with a hammer on top of that valve and push it all the way down. And then I had to crank the motor over by hand with the piston pushing that valve back up. And then I'd tap it back down again and use the piston to push it back up. And I did that like 5-6 times before it snapped shut. And it's still a little sticky though. I noticed in the video when I was driving this out of the forest, at first it was really rough and smoky. As you get through the video and it's running, it starts freeing up the valves, I believe, and the rings start freeing up, and it smoothed out and it stopped smoking and it ran really good. But if we're going to drive this down the road for a ways, we need to go through this and fix a few things. You know, right offhand, I know it needs an exhaust, crossover piece, and a muffler. Well, probably a whole new exhaust system, pretty much. These heater hoses are all chewed through. I do believe the radiator is good, but I should probably take it out and have it pressure tested and flushed. You know, I rebuilt the carburetor already. We may need to rebuild the water pump or replace it. Same with the fuel pump. I still don't know the condition of the fuel tank. We're gonna have to drop that and drain it and see how that looks. Maybe run some new fuel line. I did do an oil change on this, but I'm gonna need another oil change. And something I noticed on this thing is it does not have an oil filter. Somebody's bypassed it. And well, here, let me go down there and show you. Okay, so now we're here under the bus. Wanted to show you where that oil filter goes and what's going on here. Let's see if we can get up in here. Yeah, right there on the side of the block, there's supposed to be an oil filter, I believe. And it looks like they've got some kind of adapter kit for an external oil filter, but they've got it just looped back on itself with some copper tubing. Meaning this bus has no oil filter, so we're gonna have to do something about that. So I'm gonna order a kit or whatever I need to replace that, and we'll get an oil filter on here and do another oil change. Let's see, what else is there? Oh yeah, the muffler. The exhaust comes down over here, and that is all that's left of the muffler. So we're gonna have to replace some of this exhaust system here. Now the fuel tank is that big tank there, and it does have a drain plug on it, so I'm going to try draining that. I do see that there's some rat's nest up on top, so hopefully that hasn't rusted through and that tank is still good. So that's something we're going to have to address. Oh yeah, another thing that we're going to have to address and swap out is the clutch up here. If you remember, that clutch was completely fused to the pressure plate, and I had to use a putty knife to get up in there and separate it. I was surprised it didn't come apart as we drove it out of the forest. It actually worked pretty good. But we're going to have to pull it out of there and replace it. And I'm pretty sure this clutch is the 11-inch size set up for trucks. So I'm going to have to order a new clutch. Hopefully the pressure plate and everything is in good shape. It looks like it. We got quite a few other items that we're going to have to get to. So yeah, let's go up top and start making a parts list. So yeah, we're going to have to order some push rods. I'm going to have to pull one out and get the measurement so we get the right size. We'll also need to get that oil adapter so we can get that all set up with the filter. Fuel pump replacement or rebuild kit, water pump replacement or rebuild kit. We're going to have to replace some heater hoses and make sure that heater core and heater box is all working. Get that clutch. We're also going to need that muffler and some exhaust work. And then a few little odds and ends. We need a new breather cap and air cleaner. And so I'm going to work on getting that parts list and get those parts ordered, guys. So like I was saying, guys, I'll get that parts list completed and ordered and get those parts on the way. Well, I did want to take some time to share some news with you guys. The other day I did make a Facebook post that got a lot of attention. I had a lot of positive feedback. And with that, I was invited to be on a radio show the other day, 11:20 a.m., the Wake Up Call morning show. Had me on there talking about the bus and the whole story of me pulling it out and getting in contact with the church now. And also, next week, Register Guard, a local newspaper, is coming out to do a story on it as well. Now, with all the positive feedback I got from that Facebook post and the radio interview, there's some new news I'd like to share with you guys. I'm going to wait to the end of the video to tell you. Let's sit back and listen to that radio interview now. I did make a little slideshow out of it, so let's check it out.
8:29, live and local, the Wake Up Call. So
That's us.
It was a school bus left in the forest here locally for over 20 years. Our next guest found it, and this is a story of his and the 1948 Ford F5 bus, which, by the way, you can see photos on our Facebook page. If you check it out, you can see what he found and the current state of what it looks like after he did his number on it. Jason Kellogg with 2 G's joining us on the Wake Up Call. Jason, welcome in.
Good morning.
So out of curiosity, by trade, what do you do?
I just do a little of everything, but, my hobby is working on classic cars, and that's how this whole story has come about.
Yeah. So you found this bus, or how did you find it in its former state?
Well, the way I found it is I live up in Fall Creek and rent some property, and deep in the forest in the back of that property is where that bus has sat for 25 years or more. My landlord and neighbors had mentioned to us if we saw the bus that was in the forest, and me and my wife went for a walk out there and found it, and as soon as I saw it, fell in love with it.
And then checked it out to see if you could haul it out. What kind of effort was it to get it out of where it had been for 25 years?
Well, it was quite an effort, and I've documented the whole thing on my YouTube channel, Country Boy Gas Garage. That's me on YouTube, and they can watch the whole process. The way I guess it was parked there, running and in good shape 25 years ago, but sitting there for that long, the forest grew up around it. A bunch of rats moved into it, and it was in pretty rough shape when I found it. And it took quite the effort to get it running. The motor was frozen stuck. All the wiring's been chewed through, but I was able to get it running in the spot that it sat.
Wow.
And was able to drive it out of the forest under its own power. And got it back home, cleaned it up, and was amazed at how well it has been preserved over the years. The paint and everything was still in good condition. And that's when, it's an old church bus, Stafford Baptist Church up in Wilsonville. And they had, I guess, a small fleet of buses in the 60s, and this was one of them. And it never got painted, and it still has their there's signage on the side of the bus, and so the church reached out and contacted me, and now we're in contact with the church, which is really exciting. This bus is
hang on before you get to
time.
Hold on one sec, Jason.
Well, okay. So do they still, even though they abandoned it sounds like, in the forest, do they still own it? And if it's yours, how were you able to get ownership of it, considering it was just sitting there?
Yeah, I guess what they've come to figure out is that the church sold their buses in the 60s or 70s, or probably in the 70s or early 80s. They sold their buses, and the gentleman I bought the bus from, so they sold the bus probably in the late 70s to somebody that drove it to this location and parked it, and then it sat. And I was able to get in contact with that owner and purchase it from him with the title. And now the church has discovered that it still exists.
And do they want it back?
No, the first thing he says is their interest is in not trying to get it back. They just want to celebrate the fact that it still exists. There is an 87-year-old woman named Mary that's a member of the church that says she remembers riding that bus to church, to Bible school as a child. So
that is so cool.
My next goal now is to get the bus back on the road and drive it back to the church for a reunion trip to meet up with them. They want to have a big barbecue and celebration, and I'm hoping to get to sit with Mary and hear her story.
Like I said, if you want to see photos of it, if you go to our Facebook page, Wake Up Call 1120, you can check out both what it used to look like and what it looks like today. So how long and what did you put into it as far as monetary stuff?
Well, this whole venture started 1 year ago this month is when I first found it and started the YouTube channel around it. And it's been a long process, but, I've got a family and I work and stuff, so I can't really dedicate full time to it. So it's just whenever I get an opportunity, but it's come a long ways.
I'm still kind of stuck on the whole idea that you were able to drive it out after 20 plus years.
Yeah, it was, I got that. It's all documented on my YouTube channels. I had to get the motor. First of all, the motor had a rat's nest, and there's rats living on the motor. So I had to clean all that rat's nest out of there. And then the motor was frozen solid, and it took me a little bit to get it to rotate again. And then I was able to get it started. That was pretty amazing. I wasn't sure if that was going to happen, but it did start. And then from there, I had to get the clutch unstuck and the brake drums unfrozen and get it to where it would drive. And I had to do this all on the forest floor out there in the forest, so it wasn't that easy. But eventually, it was able to run and drive. I had to cut down a few trees and make a path because, of course, the forest has grown up around it over the last 25 years, and was able to drive it out of there.
And Stafford Christian Church, which I'm looking at a photo out there in Wilsonville with Pastor Jeff Hart. I'm so happy for you that they embraced the whole idea and are having a celebration around it, because I know of a similar story where the person called the old organization, the old entity, and told them, hey, I put some work into it and I have this thing to show you. And they were like, oh, great, yeah. And it was kind of a ho-hum and kind of a wah-wah for him. But these guys, they're throwing a celebration, a barbecue around this bus, and you'll be kind of like the celebrity up there.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I'm hoping to document all that on my YouTube channel as well. Yeah, they're very excited too. So I was glad. That was my concern too, that maybe that they didn't care about it or anything, but they were excited about it. And I'm seeing if they're looking through their documents and trying to find some old photos or anything like that too. It'd be cool to find an old photo of the bus in front of the church or something like that. That church, Stafford Baptist Church, also goes by Stafford Christian Church now.
Stafford
they're
Christian,
a 125-year-old Christian church, one of the oldest on the West Coast. So they've got a lot of history.
Very cool. And then what are you planning? Are you going to keep the bus, or what are you planning on doing with it?
Yeah, that's the plan. Me and my wife wanted to get it running and driving and be able to take it places, everywhere from, a local car cruise to maybe a camping trip at a national forest or national park or something. We want to get it back on the road and bring life back into it. But where it ends up in the far future, we're not sure yet.
Are you going to make it kind of like the ultimate camping mobile?
Yeah, a lot of people suggested that, so that's definitely a possibility.
Awesome. Well, what do we miss of the story? Because it's a pretty cool story, and good on you for going to work. You got a lot done in that year, even though you said you weren't able to devote 100% of your time, because it's beautiful.
Yeah, I give a lot of the credit to the bus for just preserving itself for that long. It's pretty. When you see how it was when I found it, with the ferns and the moss and everything growing on it, it looked like it was part of nature again. And then when I was able to get it home and wash all that off, it was surprisingly how much that just slid right off and washed off, and the paint and everything was still fairly great condition underneath.
Jason Kellogg, I don't know about you, but I'm sensing a reality TV show in the future for you. It starts with a YouTube channel, and then all of a sudden you're on Discovery or one of those Lifetime networks. And
hey, let's do it.
Well, Jason, thanks for sharing the story. Again, we're going to go ahead and give a plug for your YouTube channel again.
Yes, I am Country Boy Gas Garage on YouTube. Just go on YouTube, search Country Boy Gas Garage, and find my channel. And then you could watch the whole bus series. I've got it numeral, 1 through 15, I think now, videos.
Wow.
And get caught up to where we're at, and then follow the story as we go from here.
What's your current project right now?
The bus. I'm still focused
the bus?
on the bus.
Okay, yeah, very cool. Well, have fun up there at Stafford Christian Church in Wilsonville, and thanks for sharing your story.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, appreciate that. Jason Kellogg, again, with 2 G's at 839 KPNW.
All right, guys, thanks for watching that. I thought it was pretty cool, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Now, ever since that Facebook posted and that radio interview aired, 3 or 4 members of the church that used to ride this bus as children has reached out and contacted me. Now, this is just started a couple days ago, so we haven't got much information, but from what their comments on the Facebook post and stuff like that say, that they have good memories and it was good times. I believe one of them was saying they knew the person who was responsible for doing the mechanical work and painting the bus. So I can't wait to figure out some more of this information. This is great news. And when I mentioned to them that we were doing a reunion trip with this bus back to the church, they seemed pretty excited. So I let Pastor Jeff know about it, and I think this is going to be a pretty big celebration there, guys. So the plan is to get this bus to drive back to the old church under its own power, to have a reunion with the church, the old members, and this bus. And if everything goes to plan, we're going to be able to give the old members another ride on this bus around the old church. I couldn't imagine a better ending to the story. Now, for me to be able to pull this all off, I've got a lot of work in store ahead of me. So I need your guys' help and support as well. So take an opportunity, go over to countryboygasgarage.com and check out all the merch we have available. Pick you up something and help support the channel. I really appreciate it. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of this. And like, comment, and share with your friends. And until next time, peace. You'll need to go over to the merch store and pick you up some hoodies or t-shirts. We got all kinds of sizes. There's new items being added all the time. So go check out www.countryboygasgarage.com and pick yourself up some merch.